Hello everyone, this is the part 4 of the presentation made on the topic quality of service. We are already looking at the different implementation details on how we can provide QoS in a typical network. Particularly right now we are focusing our discussion on integrated service. So we already seen how that admission control can be done, how that reservation can be done, policing, those things. Now we will see the popular protocol called the reservation protocol RSVP. That is an integral part of this integrated service framework. So using which we can do our reservation. How it is working, what are the peculiarities of this reservation protocol compared to normal reservation, say that is happening in the virtual circuit network and all. So while connection oriented network have always needed some sort of setup protocol to establish the necessary virtual circuit state in the switches. If you are looking at a connectionless network like the internet, they have no such protocol, right? So we already know that our internet is a connectionless network only, but within that connectionless network we can think of a connection oriented network where we are making that virtual circuit. So if you are looking at any such network based on the virtual circuit communication like your ATM network or frame relay, you can see that there is a some sort of connection establishment phase is there where we will be running some setup protocol, and with the help of the protocol there will be a predefined reservation of the resources. But when it comes to a connectionless typical network like our TCP/IP model, they have no such setup protocol for making the reservation process possible. So while there have been a number of setup protocols that are proposed for the connectionless network, the one on which most current attention focused is the resource reservation protocol, in short RSVP protocol. And let's see what are all the peculiarities of this protocol, how it is different from the setup protocols which are used in a typical virtual circuit network. So it is particularly interesting because it differs so substantially from the conventional signaling protocols for connection oriented networks. So if you are looking at a connectionless network that rely on little or no state being stored in the network itself. That means in a connection oriented say virtual circuit based network, there will be some kind of state information that is stored at every router, and that is going to define the reservation. But there is no such state information which is being stored in the intermediate routers in the network. So it is possible for routers to crash and reboot, and for links to go up and down while end-to-end connectivity is still maintained. So that is the peculiarity of connectionless network. On the way, suppose you are communicating between two machines, the communication is through a number of intermediate routers and links, right? So any intermediate nodes can crash and reboot, and any link can come up and down. Still that communication is happening. So that is what makes a connectionless network robust. So RSVP is trying to maintain this robustness of a typical connectionless network by using the idea of something called a soft state. So if you are looking at a virtual circuit connection, the kind of state information that is stored there, we can call it as a hard state. Compared to that hard state, here we have soft state. That means it is something easily flexible kind of thing. So what is that soft state? In contrast to the hard state that is found in a connection oriented network, the soft state does not need to be explicitly deleted when it is no longer needed. So that is the speciality. That means if you are looking at a virtual circuit network where during the connection establishment phase, by running some setup protocol, we will be making all the reservation and all the state information will be stored. Now as soon as the communication is over, you have to manually run some another protocols by which the connection should be disconnected, and during which time all the resources reserved, everything can be removed from the intermediate routers. Okay, so that means there is a manual intervention is needed in case of hard state, but here in soft state does not need to be explicitly deleted, because that deletion is happening in an automatic way. That is the main peculiarity of RSVP protocol. Instead, it times out after some fairly short period of time, say a minute. That means this reservation request should be sent in a frequent way. If it is not coming for some short period of time, automatically all the state information stored in that router will be deleted. So if it is not periodically refreshed, that state information will be timeout and it will be released. So this is what we call as soft state compared to the hard state, which we can found in a virtual circuit based network. Now we already seen what is soft state. Now another feature that makes this RSVP different from other reservation protocol that is used in a connection oriented network is a receiver oriented approach. So we will see what is this. Before that, another important characteristics of RSVP is that it aims to support multicast flows just as effectively as a unicast. And this is something challenging for a virtual circuit based set of protocol. That means if you want to support multicast, you know what is one to many, right? This particular sender will be sending some information to many receivers. So what is the normal difficulty we are facing? That means to that sender, to what are all the different receiver, for each receiver separate reservation is needed, right? And everything should be done by the sender. So that is something a difficult job from the sender side. And also one of the insight of this RSVP designer is that most multicast applications have many more receivers than senders, that we know. Also the receivers may have different requirement. That is something you have to take. That means for example, one receiver might want to receive data from only one sender, while others might wish to receive from all senders. So normally we are looking from the sender point of view. If you are looking at a sender, I have say 100 receivers, for example. Now from the receiver point of view, the same receiver may be part of a number of multicast communication. That is possible, right? So now the receiver may not be in a state to receive information from all these multicast group. That is also possible. That means even though within a particular multicast group, say 100 machines are added, all the 100 machines may not be active all the time. Maybe some less than 50 machines are ready to receive the information and they are actively participating. In our online classes also you may experience the same in Google Meet. We are expecting say 70 students within a class, but all of them are not coming, right? So same, that is from the receiver point of view. Now you have to start thinking. So that is a problem. Some receiver, okay, maybe one who wishes to attend all the classes, he will be receiving information from all the centers, but majority are not doing so, right? So now how RSVP is going to make this easier? So that is by means of something called receiver oriented approach. That means here the attention is given to the receiver. So rather than having the sender to keep track of a potentially large number of receivers, it makes more sense to let the receivers keep track of their own needs. So now the approach is going to change. Like we are not going to do a reservation from the sender point of view. Rather the reservation will be done from the receiver point of view. Look at the receiver. What is his capacity, accordingly do the reservation, because finally ultimately what are all the information you are communicating, it is going to be taken by the receiver, right? So if you are doing your reservation up to the from the receiver point of view, then you can minimize the wastage to maximum, and this is called a receiver oriented approach. So in contrast to connection oriented network and the setup protocol which are used there, usually in that case we leave the resource reservation to the sender, right? And that we know, because what we are familiar is the reservation from the sender point of view, but here you are seeing a different approach from the receiver point of view. The soft state and receiver oriented approach makes RSVP different from others, and it give it a number of nice properties. So in the event of a host crash, now how it is handling the failure. If a host is getting offline or getting crashed on the way, the resource allocated by that host to a given flow will naturally be timeout and is released. That we already seen, like we have some timeout. Within that, if there is no refresh, if the machine is not active, the information will be just released from the particular intermediate nodes. So it is easy to handle the failure also. Now how this resource reservation is happening. There are two things that need to happen before a receiver can make a reservation. First, the receiver needs to know what traffic the sender is likely to send so that it can make an appropriate reservation. So depending on the type of traffic from the sender, you have to make your reservation, whether it is guaranteed service or a controlled service. Accordingly, the reservation is to be done. So that is, it needs to know the T-spec of the sender. Okay, so because all the traffic characters of the sender will be informed to the intermediate routers by this T-spec. So every node on the way should know the T-spec of the sender to make the reservation possible. Now the second thing, it needs to know what the path the packets will follow from the sender to the receiver, so, because through that path you are supposed to reserve the resources, right? So you should know which path the sender will be following to reach the receiver. Okay, so that it can establish a resource reservation at each router on the path. So two things it has to know. Now how it is achieving it. Both of these requirements can be met by sending a message from the sender to the receiver that contains the T-spec. So we are going to send a special message at the beginning of the communication from the sender to the receiver. That special message is going to contain the T-spec of the sender. Obviously, this gets the T-spec to the receiver because you are sending it to the receiver. The other thing that happens is that each router is now going to see this T-spec, right? So each router looks at this message, and we are calling it as the path message that is sent from the sender to the receiver, and it figures out the reverse path that will be used to send the reservation from the receiver back to the sender in an effort to get the reservation to each router on the path. We know the reservation is happening with respect to the receiver side, not from the sender, because if you are doing sender side reservation, a lot of resource wastages may happen. So we are giving that choice to the receiver. Now receiver is going to take the decision how that reservation is to be done. But from the sender, it will send its traffic specification to the receiver, and now this particular message will be reach the receiver, and whenever this particular special packet is moving, that path can be noted down by the intermediate routers. That means now this is how it is achieving the second part. Like every intermediate nodes want to know whether what is the path, right? And that path information is known in an indirect way by means of this first time communication on the T-spec. So that every intermediate routers will note down like for this T-spec, this is the path it is following. So we are supposed to resolve the resources that is going to be asked by the receiver. As of now, reservation is not made, it is simply noting down the path only. Now, having received this particular path message by the receiver sends a reservation back up the multicast tree. We will see this what is this multicast tree in the next slide. That is nothing but the reservation, a pictorial representation of the communication within a multicast, typically in a multicast group. So in that multicast group means tree like structure, as soon as the receiver is getting the path message, it will send back a reserve message, and this message contains the sender's T-spec and very important and R-spec of the receiver actually, that is describing the requirement of this receiver. So whenever the sender is sending the path message, all the intermediate nodes are now noting down the path through which the reservation is to be made for this T-spec. Now when the receiver is getting the T-spec, it will send a reserve message back, and by looking at the reserve message, the reservation is going to happen. Now what are the contents in the reserve message? The sender's T-spec that is already communicated by sender to the receiver, that is simply given back, and also the R-spec of the receiver, because what is required by the receiver, accordingly the reservation is to be done. But information is coming from the sender to the receiver only. So what are all the characteristics of the sender and what is needed by the receiver? Accordingly we are doing the reservation. Hope it is clear. We are looking at the sender's characteristics because information is coming from sender to receiver only. Now what the receiver is going to accept from the receiver, or what is the requirement of the receiver, that is R-spec of the receiver. Accordingly the reservation is done. Now each router on the path looks at the reservation request and tries to allocate the necessary resources to satisfy the request. By looking at the reserve message, the intermediate routers are now going to reserve the information. So if the reservation can be made, the reserve request is passed to the next router. So first it will be reaching one router that will do the reservation. If it is successful, it will be given to the next one. As it is going in a reverse direction, it will be given to the predecessor node, like that. If not, that means due to some reason the particular router is not able to do the reservation, then an error message will be returned to the receiver who made the request. Now if everything is going well, the correct reservation is installed at every router between the sender and the receiver. As long as the receiver wants to return the reservation, it sends the same reservation message about 30 seconds. That is also important, because then only the reservation process will be refreshed. If it is not getting that reserve message within 30 seconds, then it will be timed out and it will be deleted. Okay. So such a frequent communication is needed. So what happens when a router or a link fails? That we already seen. Simply after the timeout, it will be released. The reservation will be released, and also a new path will be established. So routing protocols will adapt to the failure easily. It creates a new path from the sender to the receiver, and a path message are sent out every 30 seconds. So whenever there is a failure, a new path will be created. That is normally done by our routers, and as soon as a path is created, this path message has to be sent again, because this new path has to be learned by the intermediate routers, right? So accordingly, now all the intermediate routers on the new path are ready to do the reservation. The receiver's next reserve message, so when this path message is coming, that is also sending it in a duration of 30 seconds. Whenever the receiver is getting that path, it will send back a reserve message that will also follow the new path and hopefully establish a new reservation on the new path by taking care of the RSpec and CSpec. Meanwhile, the routers that are no longer on the path, because one of the path is failed, and that is why we established a new path, right? So which are on the failed path will stop getting reserve message, because every 30 seconds the reserve message should come like path message, and these reservation will automatically time out and be released. This RSCP deals quite well with the changes in the topology, as long as the routing changes are not excessively frequent. But if the routing is getting changed frequently, then it will suffer out of it, right? So these are all the features like soft state, receiver oriented approach, and also how it is dealing with the topology changes. It is easily adaptable. Now a typical example how this reservation can be done on a typical multicast tree. So it is like this. I have an example where we have two senders, sender 1 and sender 2, and say two receivers. Maybe sender 1 will be sending to receiver A and B, and sender 2 is also sending receiver A and B. You can just take this snapshot like that. But in a typical case, there will be some senders and there will be many receivers, because we are looking at a multicast communication. Okay. As of now, assume that this receiver A is part of the multicast group created by sender 1 and that of sender 2. Say. Now, when both senders will be sending the path message to the receivers, right? So the path message will be sent from the sender to the receiver, and it will follow some path, intermediate routers, and every routers will note down that. That means for this particular flow with this given T-spec, so what is the content of path message? It is T-spec, a specification of the traffic characteristics of the flow. Here we are supposed to do the reservation, but the reservation will be done when that reserve message is coming there. Similarly for the other one. Now when the receiver is getting the information, it will send back a reserve message containing the T-spec of the sender and the R-spec of the receiver, and that will be coming here, and the reservation is done and it is proceeding. Now something different you have to note down here is there is something happening here, like the reservations are getting merged. And the idea is like suppose here receiver A is asking for a reservation, B is also asking for a reservation, and both this reserve message may come simultaneously, or normally we can assume some delay between them. For example, suppose A's message is coming first. Now by looking at the A's reservation, it will check whether I can allot it or not. If everything is fine, it will reserve as per the what is requested by A. Now after that, B's reservation is coming, say for example. Now if we want, we can merge these two if there are some similarity, or we can handle it as a different message also. For example, suppose A is asking for say a time delay of maximum 100 milliseconds. That means I want to get every information within 100 milliseconds. That is A's requirement. Suppose it is made. Now B is asking a time reservation of say 200 milliseconds. See, now whether it is to that is to be separately given to B, because Already this router is guaranteeing a promise of 100 millisecond that is asked by A. Now that same guarantee is now applicable to everyone that is coming out from the router. Like that it is setting up things. So now this is asking only 200 millisecond of time. So when it is offering 100, that is enough, right? So no need of new reservation. So this is a kind of merging that is happening here. Now instead of that, if sub B is asking for say 50 millisecond of time, see already 100 millisecond of time is promised by this router. Now this is asking a more restrictive delay like 50. Now it has to rethink, like if I am going to provide that 50, whether it is okay, whether all other flows are will work fine. Because you have to see, this is just a snapshot only. Here many other machines, many other flows, some of them already reserved, like that you have to see. So I should not disturb already allocated flows, and accordingly I have to take a critical decision now. If possible, I will reserve that request by B, that is I will promise B to that delay of 50 millisecond, so that now A is also happy. A asked only 100, but A is getting that 50, okay, and it will proceed. Otherwise it will report an error back. Now this merged request will be coming up, and the same thing will happen. And similarly one more similar merging is happening at the receiver side also, because the receiver will be getting information from different senders. Say this receiver A is part of multicast group created from where sender 1 is sending the information, and it is also part of multicast group where sender 2 is sending the information, so that both sender 1 and sender 2 will be sending the path message, and that will be received by receiver A. Now when you are looking at receiver A is getting the traffic specification from sender 1 and sender 2. So now when it is doing this reservation message, it should ask for a common traffic specification. But in general it will be getting the traffic specification say from n number of senders. Now that also the receiver can merge, like a combination of all this, what is best, such that all the requirement is met, and that will be coming back. So that here also some kind of merging is happening with respect to the traffic specification. So that is these things are written here. As a reserve message travels up the multicast group in the backward direction, it is likely to hit a piece of the tree where some other receiver's reservation has already been established, like just like R, this particular R. Okay, here already some reservation is made, and this is also hitting here. Now it may be the case that the resource reserved upstream of this point are adequate to serve both the receivers. Now for example, if the same example, the receiver A has already made a reservation that provide a guaranteed delivery of say 100 millisecond, and the new request from B is for a delay of say 200 millisecond, then no reservation is required actually, or indirectly we are merging both reservations. Now on other hand, if the new request were for a delay of less than 50 millisecond, then the router would first see if it can accept the request, and if so, it would send a request on upstream. If it is able to provide, then that merged new reservation will be propagated upstream, otherwise some error will be reported. In general, the reservation can be merged in this way to meet the needs of the receivers downstream of the merge point. Okay, at every merge point this kind of thing can be implemented. So that is a kind of optimization we are applying. So if there are multiple senders in the tree, the receivers need to collect the T-spec from all these senders and make a reservation that is large enough to accommodate the traffic from all the senders. Okay, this is what I explained next. That means if the receiver is getting T-spec from a number of senders, then that T-spec also can be merged to a single one. So the RSP and that reservation should be done in such a way that the newly generated T-spec should be large enough to accommodate the traffic from all the senders. So accordingly, we have different reservation styles to deal with such options as reserve resources for all the speakers, that is all the senders you are going to do the reservation, and sometimes the receiver may be interested to reserve resources for say n number of speakers, that n it is restricting, and reserve resources for particularly for speakers A and B. Like that different options are possible. Accordingly, that merging will be happening. That about the reservation protocol which we are using in a typical integrated service architecture. approach of providing quality of service. Now we already seen about how that admission control is done, how that policing is done, how that reservation is made. Now what is the last step after doing all this? It is a packet classification and scheduling. So once we have described our traffic our T-spec and our desired network service have installed a suitable reservation, say by using RSVP protocol at the routers on the path, the only thing that remains is for the routers to actually deliver the requested service to the data packets. Now it's a reservation, everything is made. Now it's the time for providing what is promised. So there are two things that need to be done at this point. One is called the classification of the packet, that is associate each packet with appropriate reservation so that it can be handled correctly by a process called classification. Whether it is part of the guaranteed service, control service, like that, the different packets has to be classified, or it is simply it is part of which flow. Accordingly, classification and what is reserved for that flow, that should be given to the particular packet. Now when many packets from say different flows are coming to a router, how it is doing the scheduling of the packets, that is another one. That is manage the packets in the queue so that they receive the service as requested. Once we do our request, if everything is fine, we are doing the reservation. And now how we are ensuring it, that is by a process called packet scheduling. The first part is done by, that means how we are going to classify the packets as part of a given flow by examining up to 5 fields in a typical packet. If this is a case when we are using IPv4, but when it comes to IPv6, we have a flow label field. So no such flow identification is there in IPv4. So when it is IPv4, we are looking at the source address of the packet, destination address of the packet, the protocol number, whether it is TCP or UDP, like that protocol number, the source port and destination port. These 5 fields together is going to define a flow, because from the same source there may be multiple flows, right? That is why we are taking the source port also. So together the source IP address and source port will be unique. Similarly, if we are looking at the receiver, to the same receiver multiple flows may reach. That is why we are taking the destination port and also what kind of traffic it is. For that we are taking protocol number, whether it is an ICMP traffic, whether it is a TCP, like that is protocol number will say. So these 5 will identify a typical flow, and accordingly we can classify the packet as part of which flow. Accordingly we can provide the reservation, the resources reserved. Now if you are looking at IPv6, it is somewhat because we started thinking this when IPv6 coming up, we already have the concept of flow reservation, everything that is already proposed. So IPv6 is handling it in a different way. It is possible that the flow label field in the header could be used to enable the lookup to the to be done. That means instead of using this 5 different fields, we can simply look at a flow label. You can see that it is a 20-bit number in IPv6, and that is going to identify a flow. Okay, so now it is a shorter key compared to the 5 different parts. So based on this information, the packet can be placed in an appropriate class. For example, it may be classified into a controlled load class, or it can be classified as a guaranteed flow or best effort also. So in the case of a guaranteed service, it has been established that a weighted fair queuing discipline in which the flow gets its own individual queue, and with a certain share of the link will provide a guaranteed end delay bound that can be readily be calculated for controlled load simpler scheme. So here we are explaining how that scheduling can be done. If you are looking at a guaranteed service, we can make use of certain fair scheduling algorithms like weighted fair queuing, and you may be learned it in your queuing theory concept. When it comes to weighted fair queuing, what is happening, different queues are maintained for different flows with the different weights assigned, and accordingly whenever you want to schedule it, we are going to assign, the queues are getting priority. Accordingly that scheduling is done. So that is for guaranteed service, depending on the type of flow, because we have to provide a service guarantee. Accordingly that priorities are set for the weighted fair queuing. And when it comes to controlled load, no need of such weighted fair queuing scheme. A simpler normal kind of queuing discipline can be made use of. So with this I am winding up the entire discussion on the integrated service architecture. So we already seen from the previous parts what is integrated service approach of providing QoS and how it can be implemented. Different approaches like admission control, policing, reservation, and how the reservation protocol RSVP can be executed, and now its features, and finally we end our discussion with the classification and scheduling. Okay, now in the last part of the discussion, in the next part we will see how the other approach, that is the differentiated service architecture, is working and why we need such an approach. Okay, thank you.